Hey everybody, this is Flavio Romeo, and on this episode of the Towncast, we had the opportunity of speaking with Marisol Rodriguez, who's the co-founder of Renew Life Center right in Paterson, New Jersey. And it is an incredible organization that equips single moms with the concepts, the skills, and the tools they need to overcome generational poverty. It is an incredible organization. I encourage you to support them if you can, either with your money or with your time. All right, enjoy the episode, everybody. All right, everybody, so here we are. We're in this beautiful town of Denville, New Jersey, and we're in this brand new place that opened up, the Barn Cafe, right on Broadway, and they have some amazing treats. Of course, I have my scone here and a sandwich there.
Gluten-free.
And they have gluten-free, and the coffee's outstanding, so I highly recommend come in and say hi to Eric. They just opened just a couple of months ago, so always support your local businesses. And speaking of supporting, I'm happy to have Marisol Rodriguez.
Wow, nice.
Right?
Yes.
She is the co-founder of Renew Life Center. And when I first heard about this organization, and a shout out to Jim O'Hagan, appreciate the connect, I was riveted, and I wanted to talk to you more about it because, there needs to be more organizations like and organizations like yours across the country.
I agree.
Yeah. So we had a chance to talk before we started recording. So I want to go over a lot of the stuff that we talked about. First of all, what's amazing to me is talking to you, understanding what your organization does, and then when you gave me your background. So I want to go back to where you grew up, how you grew up. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, I grew up with a single mom. She had 8 children.
8?
8, yes.
Well, we didn't go into that detail. That's a lot.
That was a lot. Wow. That was a lot, So I will say she was intermittently single. She wasn't single the whole time, but,
right.
A man in her life that came and went. But by the time I came around, it was mostly went. So, wow. So a single mom.
Where were you in the hierarchy?
Oh, I'm one of the youngest. I'm like number 7, so there's only one more after me. Yeah. So, I'm one of the youngest, and we came to this country when I was 2. It's a great benefit to me, the younger you get here, because I see how my older sisters who came in their teens or whatever, they struggled more in the transition from...
My older brother was 5 years older.
Yeah, right?
So he was 9, 10, I was 4 or 5.
Yeah, and it really different outcome when you're raised here. Like I always felt like an American. Even though we're Puerto Ricans, we are Americans, but that cultural difference, right? Yeah. I never had issues with feeling like I don't belong here, this isn't home, whereas my older siblings did. They felt like outsiders. Yeah, and that contributes a lot.
Did you speak English? Did they speak English?
Well, not when they got here. Right. But they learned. They all speak English now, of course.
They had to.
Yeah, they learned. And single mom. So we grew up in poverty. I mean, really, really. When I say I crack up when people say they grew up in poverty, and they're like, yeah, we were so poor. We had to drive to Florida every year for vacation. I'm like, you went to Florida for vacation?
You had a car?
You had a car? Yeah, so it's so funny.
It's different.
Poverty is
levels.
Different scales, but we were on this end of the scale where no car, my mother had no education, she never went to school. So that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad education. And then it's generational because her parents were the same, and then her grandparents were the same. So this is what we call generational poverty. And that kind of poverty is entrenched in your family because that's all that's being passed on from generation to generation. What skills did my mother have to pass on? Survival.
Right.
Just
having everybody was able to survive.
Right. And that's all we knew how to do. And but thankfully, in that survival, when we came to this country, a woman introduced my mother to Christ. She invited her to church, and my mother went.
Was she going to church in Puerto Rico?
No. My mother, just like all Latinos, they're like Catholic. They're all, if you ask them, they're all Christians and they're Catholic because they were probably baptized as a baby. But she didn't go to church.
Just Easter and Christmas.
Yeah, probably, if that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Well,
but
with
this,
8 kids.
yeah, it's hard. And then you know what? You're worried about what are the kids gonna wear. We don't have clothes to go to church. Everyone wears their little Easter outfit. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel like, yeah, we're not gonna go embarrass ourselves, kind of thing. But this woman invited my mom to church, which is huge shout out to evangelism, right? We have to do that because
Yeah,
you never know who
absolutely.
you're giving the message to.
Yep.
And my mother went to church with her. And thank God she did, because, and this was in Puerto Rico where someone introduced her to the Lord. But then when we came to this country and she was here and alone and scared and whatever, she kind of had this aha moment. She goes, oh, wait a minute, that lady in Puerto Rico told me about church, and the church that had taken her happened to be a Baptist church.
Okay.
So my mother just started looking for a Baptist church because that's the only one
she knew.
All
Yeah,
she
yeah,
knew.
yeah.
And yeah, she found a little Spanish-speaking Baptist church, storefront church in Newark, and we started going there.
Nice.
And that was a game changer. And this is really my message out there to Christians, to church leaders, is that the church is the hope of the world. And I think that's not my comment. I got that from someone else. But it's so true. It's been true in my life that the church was the hope of the world, because it was being in that church that we got exposed to not only the Lord, which was, of course, of the utmost importance, but to other people with other resources and other capacity, and live different lifestyles. So being able to mingle from total poverty with people that weren't that way, it just opens your eyes and your horizon, because all you know is what you're stuck in.
Yes, you've never seen people that weren't poor.
No.
That's all that was around.
No, right. We just know.
And I think that's fairly common.
It is. And if you do see people who aren't poor, they're far away. You don't have a conversation with them. You see them over there, and you're like, oh, wow, that's nice. I wish I had that. Or you see them on TV. Right? You see it on TV, and that's what you want. But you don't have direct access to that. Right? So that was a game changer, because, there's a statistic out there. I do a lot of research on poverty. It's my topic now. I do a lot of research on poverty, and they say that there's a study that shows that people of faith who grow up in poverty, so you can have two families, right? Exact same level of poverty, exact same neighborhood, exact same drugs, gangs, everything, exact same. One is a family of faith, and the other's a family with no faith, secular. The family of faith will have a far better outcome being in the exact same environment just because of their relationship with Christ, right? And I saw that play out in my family, because we grew up in the same ghetto as everybody else. However, my mother took all her children to church. There was no drinking, there was no smoking. She said, if you ever have sex outside of marriage, I will kill you. That was my mother's way of parenting, So it wasn't, she was like, and you know what? She wanted us to learn from her. She was like, look at me. This is not what I want from you, to be a single mother. So she was very adamant about that. So we grew up with guidelines and structure and faith in God, and knowing that we just don't want to disappoint Mom. We don't want to disappoint God.
Right.
So
it kept you away from the gangs. It kept you away from the drugs.
Right. And my mother's parenting, like, I would say, Mom, can I go to the park with my friends, like at night? When I was a teenager, she's like, absolutely not. I'm like, but all my girlfriends are hanging out. Yeah, no, not you. And just having that backbone, because she knew what happens in the park at night.
Right.
Teenagers, right? So I'm grateful for her for that. But yeah, so we had a far better outcome just because of that. But then the involvement of people in church to care enough about her children to say, hey, what are you doing with your life? Did you graduate high school already? What are you doing with your life? And, to have a young lady say, well, I don't know. I graduated high school. I'm working at Rite Aid, and that's all I got for now.
Yeah, this is autobiographical. This is what happened to you.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened to me. So, and for him to say, well, I know of an opportunity. Are you interested? That's a game changer. Yeah. So I could have been in poverty my whole life unless there's an intervention.
If that didn't happen,
I don't know.
We wouldn't be here talking right now.
We wouldn't be talking right now. The New Life Center wouldn't exist. The hundreds of women we've helped, get on their feet, wouldn't have had that. It really is a work of the Lord. And it's like, really, if I have a clarion call, it's really to the capital C Church of New Jersey and America, to say we need more involvement You know, we need more relationships, not just in the church amongst ourselves, but outside in the community. Because I believe with all my heart, it's relationships that help people overcome poverty, not so much money. I mean, you need a job and you need income, but without those relationships that bridge, create a bridge.
Right.
A bridge to resources you don't have access to, networks you don't have access to. Without that bridge, you're really just treading water.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to get traction. So, so my background is that of poverty. You
So
know?
this guy, he comes, he says to you, hey, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know, I work at Rite Aid, that's all I got, right? And he says, well, I work in the computer field, and they're hiring. It's the 80s, you know, so
it's brand new.
It's brand new.
We'll take anybody.
Well, that's right, you have a pulse.
Yeah.
You have a pulse, we'll train you, you know. And now you need a degree and a master's to get into the field. Whew, I was lucky. But yeah, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. So the beauty of it was, not only did he open the door to an opportunity, but he said, well, let me help you fill out the application. Do you have a resume? Of course I don't have a resume, you know. Let me help you write one. We created a resume. He wrote me a letter of recommendation, drove me to the interview, coached me on the way, waited for me in the parking lot for me to finish, and then dropped me off back at home. So I got hired.
You did. You got the job.
I got the job. And then I spent the next 15, almost 20 years in the computer field.
Have you ever talked to him? Like,
yes.
Is he still around?
Yes.
Really?
We've reconnected.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's funny because I asked him, why did you do that? Like, what made you do that?
Yeah.
It was life-changing. And he thought about it, and he's like, I don't know. I just was watching you grow up in the church, and I said to myself, that girl has chutzpah. And he goes, and I just felt like it had to be a prompting of the Holy Spirit. It was just like, you know, I saw you, I thought you had some chutzpah, and I was like, well, let me see if I can help her out, you know?
It's God moving through church.
It wasn't, I thought he was going to say something elaborate, but it wasn't. It was just that simple. He was noticing.
Yeah.
Just looking and wondering. So it was a curiosity, like, I wonder what's going to happen with her.
But you were also open to receive it.
Yes.
Like, you didn't just say, no, I'm happy, I'm fine where I am.
Well, you know what? Personality does play into this, because some people would be afraid. What? Computers? I don't know that. You're taking me where? To this environment I've never been into?
Right. I'm safer here.
I'm safer. I know. This is what I know. So some people won't take that chance without coaching and goading, but I'm crazy that way. It's a personality thing. I'm always like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I'll go there. But yeah, and it turned everything around, and that's what I really want to see, more of those things happening for women, in particular, as we were talking earlier, women who choose life.
Yeah.
As Christians, we're so adamant about choose life. Choose life. That's great, but what happens afterwards?
Yeah.
So. After I'm in the computer field for, almost 20 years, and I decide to stay home because I get married, I start having children, now I'm staying home, and the Lord led me to a volunteer opportunity at a pregnancy resource center. And
which we have one in Hawthorne. We have Lighthouse.
Yeah, right, and in Patterson as well.
Yeah.
And I work very closely with Lighthouse.
Good.
So volunteering at a pregnancy resource center with women in poverty, because you got to think about it. If a woman is going for a free pregnancy test, she's got to be pretty broke.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to CVS and pick one up, I don't know, maybe $15, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you got to be pretty broke to go there anyway. So the vast majority of women that walk in there are under-resourced, unemployed, underemployed, or uneducated, or whatever. And I started noticing the celebration of life when life was chosen, but then the Lord, through some events, started opening my eyes to the question of, when she walks out of here, she's still uneducated,
right?
She's still unemployed,
and now she's a single mom.
And now we're gonna add a baby to that. And I felt, at least where I was, we weren't giving that much thought. And maybe people do give it thought, but it's such a big job.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like you think about it, like, oh no, like that's just way too much. I can't even fathom. How are we going to do that? And a lot of people tell me that. They're like, Marisol, we care, but we just don't know. Where do you start? What do you do, right? It is big, but God is good, and He's bigger.
Yeah.
Right? And He starts, just giving us ideas and prompting and leading. And one thing led to another, where I said, we really, the pro-life culture really has to do more in this area. Now, that's not to say that no one's doing nothing. I'm talking about New Jersey where I am. I know there's these national hotlines like Love Line and Let Them Live and whatever. They're out there really helping these women with needs. But again, they're like relief organizations, so they're going to help them maybe pay their back rent and do things like that, which is wonderful. We absolutely need them to get relief in certain situations.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to focus on was development. How can we develop these women to the point where they can self-sustain themselves and their children and not need relief all the time?
Right.
And the beauty of that is not just that it gives her dignity, right? And it gives a better outcome for the child that we're encouraging her to bring into the world.
And she becomes a model for her child, for her children.
Yes. You don't know how much that means to a mom.
Yeah.
You don't know how much it means to a mom for your kid to look at you and say, you know, Mom, I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
I admire
you're
you.
inspiration to me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And
it means a lot to a dad too, by the way.
yeah, I'm sure it does.
We don't get it as often though.
Yeah, and also when you're doing that, not only is it good for her in all those ways, but also it reduces repeat pregnancies.
Right.
That's something we don't think about, because when I was at the center, one thing I did notice was that the same woman kept coming back over and over, you know, with more pregnancies and more babies with different last names, right? And we tend to judge her. I confess, I was judging. I'm like, oh my God, here she did it again. Dear Lord,
She
like,
learned not that. Yeah.
you know, like, hello, get a clue, you know, it doesn't work. And now a new man, new baby, new last name. I thought all those things, and the Lord convicted me of that, because it's like, well, when we peel it back, why is she doing that?
Right.
Well, here's a woman with no resources. She's looking for support. She's looking for provision. Where does a woman?
She doesn't know where to find it. Right. She
Looks
turns
for
to
it
a
in a man.
Yeah.
Man comes up and says, hey,
I'll take care of you.
I'll take care of you. I'll take care of your baby too. You know, and maybe he is sincere at the moment, but he's also in an unstable situation as well. And then she's like, oh, this is it, right? This is it. This is mine.
This one's going to be different.
This one's going to be different. This one's going to love me. This one's going to stay. And then he doesn't. So, and it's a cycle of that. And that's very heartbreaking. And I don't think that we look at the heartache. We look at the behavior. We don't look what causes the behavior. We don't look at the heartache as well. We think that she's enjoying being abandoned over and over. Like,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like, hello. So, yeah, so those are all the things that God just started stirring up in my mind. And from that, with some dear friends that I also had in pro-life ministry, we were like, you know, I think the Lord is leading us to develop something to go beyond that, because I addressed the board at the pregnancy center I was at with my concerns and the insight I was getting, and I was like, you know, we really need to provide more for these ladies than just what we're doing, the ultrasound, the diapers, the wipes, the parenting, like all that's great and absolutely necessary, but there's got to be more.
There's got to be a follow-up to it.
It's got to be long term.
Yeah.
Not 1 year, not two. Like, there's women I've been mentoring for 10 years.
Wow.
And they're doing great. They're doing great. They're in management positions. They're doing wonderful. But it's a long-term relationship with people. It's like we talk about in church. We do life together, right? So, so when I spoke to that board about it, they were like, well, Marisol, we get what you're saying, but we don't do that. That's not our calling. That's not our mission statement. And I get it.
Yeah.
You got to stay within your calling.
Sure.
Then I said, okay, then maybe we just need to create something that is the mission statement.
So when did you start Renew Life Center?
So in 2013 was when we became incorporated. I formed a board, and we started, thankfully my church that I was going to, I spoke to my pastor, and my church gave me seed money to start the ministry, because they really felt passionate about it as well. And he knew I had a long track record in pro-life ministry. This wasn't like I wake up one day and say, I think I want to do this, right? Yeah. No, it was, they gave us the seed money. And here's the beauty of it. So I look at a map and I say, all right, in my mind, I thought I was going to open a pregnancy center that went beyond the typical pregnancy center mission statement. So I was thinking of it as a pregnancy center plus.
Right.
Because
you were familiar with the pregnancy center.
Right, that's
so
what
I let's do the same thing. Let's help them here.
And just expand.
Let's keep going.
Right. So I'm like, let me look for a city that doesn't have a pregnancy center in there. And of course, I wanted it to be an urban city. So I want to serve women in poverty, right? So I look at the map, where they show you all the little pinpoints where all the pregnancy centers were. And then I see Paterson, right? The third largest city in New Jersey. 38% of moms there are single,
38%.
38%, I believe. And 13% of children don't, 13.4% of children don't graduate high school, drop out of high school. So it's like you look at the statistics and they're pretty bad. Yeah. And I'm that crazy person that I love a challenge, right? So I'm like, oh wow, Paterson, that's really dark. Let's go there,
Right.
That's really dark. So we set our mind on Paterson, but also being in ministry for so long, I also know that there's peripheral ministries that may be impacted by me going there. So I said, let me see what peripheral ministries there are and contact them, introduce myself and say, hey, I'm coming to town. Hopefully they'll wish me well, right?
Yeah.
And so one of those was Lighthouse Pregnancy Resource Center in Hawthorne. So I called the executive director there, and I called her and I introduced myself. And
Debbie?
Debbie Provencher. Yeah. I introduced myself, and I'm nervous calling her because I'm like, she's gonna hang up on me, like this random person on a random Tuesday, calling me, hey, I'm making a pregnancy center like 3 miles from yours. Like I knew that wasn't gonna go down well.
Yeah.
That's not. If someone did it to me, I would be like, are you kidding me?
Why compete? Yeah.
Yeah, like why are you coming here? So I called her and I told her my plans and my thoughts, and to her credit, she said, let's talk. Let's talk about this, because she knew about pregnancy centers. I wasn't going to tell her about that, but I'm telling her about what I saw as the need. And she saw that need as well. And I'm not saying that pregnancy centers are blind to this. They may be seeing it. They're just, what are they going to do? It's big. What are they going to do? And again, their mission is to lead women to make life choices, not get them to high school.
Beyond, right?
Not get them.
Which that in and of itself,
it's a big job.
Is a huge job.
Yeah. So one thing led to another. I met with Debbie. She said, I want you to meet my board. I made a presentation to their board, and then the consensus came back. Said, well, let's partner. Let's do this together. Let's go into Paterson together as a collaboration. We'll open a pregnancy center that does what the pregnancy center always does, and we'll open it with you, that you're going to be that plus side. You're going to be the education and mentoring. That was all God. That was all God. Yeah. And 10 years later, this year we celebrate our 10th anniversary. We share a space. So we have the pregnancy center there along with Renewed Life Center. And the beauty of that is that the women that are coming to the center for the pregnancy center stuff, they see us there all the time.
Right.
And
they're also talking about Renewed.
Right.
What are you going to do? What are you doing after this?
It's a very warm handoff.
Yeah.
Because what happens a lot is when you refer people, particularly in poverty, like people in poverty, like myself, and I still have this, we're not very trusting people. We're always very skittish and cautious.
Right.
Like we don't trust people.
What do you want from me?
Yes.
What are you trying to...
I'm still that way to this day. I'm such a cautious person with people and relationships. So when you say to them, when they learn to trust you, and the pregnancy center is very good at gaining their trust, and you say to them, here's a card, go over there for this, they're like, yeah, no, I trust you, but I don't trust them.
Right, I don't know them.
Yeah. And they're very, that handoff rarely bears fruit. Rarely bears fruit, yeah.
But I think it's a natural, it's right there.
No, well, if you're sending them somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, here, go to Broad Street and ask
it.
for this person.
But
when they say, hey, let me introduce you to Sherry, or Marisol, or Abernell, let me introduce, and we're right there. They're doing this, and that's the warm handoff, right? That works.
It's almost like it's part of the PRC.
Yes. They don't feel they're going, when they come to our classes, they're going to the same building, same space. It's familiar, it's safe, and that's wonderful. And I'm like, to me, it's like, if we could just develop this with all pregnancy centers to have these kinds of collaborations, then it's a game changer for the pro-life world.
Well, and let's talk about once that warm handoff comes, and I'm sure you see women of the whole spectrum of women. What happens? What do you do?
So Renew focuses solely on education and mentoring. So we have our first educational program is called Getting Ahead, and the Getting Ahead workshop is about getting people from generational poverty mindset to a mindset that brings success. Those are two different mindsets, two different worlds, right?
Opposite sides.
So you can't go. So what we see a lot is women from generational poverty that go to college and get a degree, but they still feel stuck because they're not thinking, operating, and living from a mindset that produces success. They're still in survival mode.
That's all they know. Yeah.
So it just helps people in poverty see what type of thinking, what language, what thinking, what resources you need to overcome poverty, right? So we take them through that. And that's a 10-week workshop. So nothing that we do is short and quick. Everything takes a long time. And that's very hard for donors to hear because they're like, well, how long does it take for a woman to get out of poverty? Long time. 10 years maybe.
Right.
So it's
and if it takes 20 years, at least they're moving towards the goal.
Right direction. And the thing is that I don't think people who've never experienced poverty truly understand what a deep ditch that is. I mean, it's not easy to overcome. And
and you're also talking from and mentoring from experience.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't say, I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
I know where you are right now.
Yeah, and I know it's scary.
Yeah.
And I know it's counterintuitive for you, and I know that you've done it before. Maybe it didn't work. It's that thing of having persistence, or grit is the new word. The grit to just get up, do it again, get up and do it again. So there's the Getting Ahead workshop, and then we have Jobs for Life, which is a job readiness program to help the women understand, what it's like in the workforce. And here's the thing. How do people go into the workforce when they don't really understand the workforce? Maybe never had a job before.
They've never been in the workforce, right?
Or maybe they have been in the workforce, but it wasn't a good experience because they didn't accommodate. They didn't, not accommodate. They didn't transition into their, into that style, right? Well, it was not a good experience, right? So there's the Jobs for Life workshop. In that workshop, not only do they learn the skills needed to work and be a good employee, like what are employers looking for? Right? What do you need to do to be a good employee, to get that promotion, to get that raise, right? To get the opportunities. But we help them write standout resumes. We bring in resume experts that help with that. We bring in Dress for Success that brings them interview outfits.
Wow.
We work with coaches like Jim O'Hagan. He'll come in and do interview coaching and networking coaching. We bring in local businesses to do mock interviews.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we bring in like local employers, and sometimes not that local, but just employers that want to come in, and they do real interviews, not this fake. I mean, these interviews are as close to real as they can get.
Yeah.
It's
That's what they need.
That's what they need.
Yeah.
We're like, don't hold back, don't be extra nice because they're in a program. Like, you do your interview like you would do it for anybody.
Sure.
And some of those are so successful that some of our girls have gotten job offers from a mock interview.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
I mean, here's a pretend interview, and they're like, we really like this girl.
Yeah,
We want
she
to
was
offer her a
great.
job. Yes.
Yeah.
So all those things, image consultants to teach them what's the proper business attire, proper makeup and hair and all these things, to just have that professional image. And not just image physically, but your image on social media. What's your email address? It can't be mama-got-4-kids@gmail.com. Let's create.
Do you ever have one of those? No.
We see all kinds of
Really?
email addresses, yes.
Wow.
Yes. So we create professional email addresses and LinkedIn profiles, and let's clean up your Facebook and your Instagram, and we just really want to give them the best foot forward. So that's Getting Ahead, Jobs for Life. Now we teach them financial literacy. Even if they're unemployed, you're getting some kind of money from the government or food. How do you manage what you have now?
Right.
You don't have to wait to have
So you break
money.
it down exactly what they're spending, what's coming in.
So we created a financial literacy program specifically for people in poverty. Because if you know the Dave Ramsey one, we've done that. The Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University.
Oh, yeah.
My husband and I have done that.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, why don't you use the Dave Ramsey? I'm like, listen, he's talking about home insurance, he's talking about mortgages, he's talking about investments and long-term care.
Yeah.
This is so way above their head. We need to talk about money you owe,
Right.
the money you need, the money you owe, the money you have. Like,
Where's the food coming from?
let's just keep it down to bare. And it's funny because we don't even call it a budget. Because if you talk to someone in poverty and you say, "Oh, let's make a budget," they're like, "What are you talking about? I don't have any money to make a budget."
Right. Let's talk about how I'm going to put food on the table.
Right. But when you say, "Let's create a spending plan," they're like, "Okay, all right, let's do that." Because a spending plan to them is like, "Okay, this is what I have. Let me see how I'm going to spend it." When they hear budget, they think, "This is what I have. This is how I'm going to save."
Right.
They're like, "I have got nothing to save.
Yeah.
There's nothing to budget. I just need to spend it well." So we even changed the language, so it's language that
Smart.
is understandable for them. So let's create a spending plan. And we don't even use the word debt. We'll use the word money owed. Because we'll say to people, "Do you have any debt?" "Nope, no debt, no debt." Then in the conversation, feel like they owe Aunt Millie $100.
Right.
They
right.
owe Uncle John $500 from when your transmission broke. That's debt. You need to pay these people back.
Yeah.
You know, so money owed, no matter who it is, right? Yeah, financial literacy, and recently we've added computer literacy, because here you have a group of people that some of them don't even own a laptop. So if we want them to get employed and be competitive, you need to know your Microsoft Office suite, your
Wow, so you teach them how
PowerPoint,
to-
Word, Excel.
Yeah.
Those are all basic office skills today.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
That's the first thing that they ask for.
yeah, are you proficient in Microsoft Office suite? And now we're able to certify them as proficient
Oh, really?
in these things. Yeah, because we have a retired teacher that's doing that for us. So, so she's a woman. Actually, it's one of my board members' wife. She called. She goes, "Look, I'm retiring at the end of the year. I want to do something." I'm like, "Well, hi. How about computer literacy?" She's on it, you know. So we do computer literacy basic level, advanced level. So they walk out of there, they know how to use the computer, they know how to use these things. And now we're partnering with Partners Worldwide, an international organization whose aim is to end poverty through entrepreneurship.
Really?
Yeah, and they're worldwide, and they contacted Renew Life Center and said, "Hey, we've heard about what you're doing. We want to partner with you and bring this workshop to the
awesome.
women you serve." And I already told you in our previous conversation that we had some women who had the entrepreneurial mindset. They wanted to start small businesses, so we said, "Sure, let's do it." You know, so now
Amazing.
now they're getting mentored on how to start their home-based businesses. So, and this is all a work of the Lord from beginning to today.
Yeah.
Bringing,
Doors keep opening.
yeah, and what I want people to take away from this is the amount of collaboration that it takes. None of this,
Oh, yeah.
I can never say Renew Life Center did this. Renew Life Center did it with Lighthouse, with the Crossing Church, with retired school teachers, with Partners Worldwide, with Jim O'Hagan, with Dress for Success. So it's like we just bring in people together to create this solution.
That's amazing. And by the way, it's free.
It's free.
I mean, it's, you know.
It's free to them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got a lot of bills to pay,
Yeah.
but it's amazing, these resources that are available. Not just, they're not handouts, you know.
Right.
And that's where, you know, being an immigrant, watching my parents work as hard as they did, they knew if we don't do this, no one's going to eat.
Right.
You know, we're not going to have heat. We're not going to have a place to live. So, you know, it's empowering. You're empowering these women.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm gonna put the website down here. I want to make sure I get it right. I saw it here.
Yeah.
It's renewlifecenternj.org, and check out what they're doing. See the work that they're doing, and how they're helping these women that are coming from low income to no income.
Yeah.
And empowering them and lifting them up and to be the best selves they can be.
Yeah, and the ultimate goal is to get them to know Christ.
Yeah.
You know, because we think that the faith is really the foundation of everything.
Well, you said it. You know, you have a group of people that don't go to church. They don't know the Lord. Then you have a group of people that do, from the same
Neighborhood.
economic background, from the same neighborhood, the same poverty.
Yeah.
And how is it that they excel in life and you know, are so much richer in life, not financially,
Right.
and they're just stuck. They're stuck
Right.
and they can't get out of it.
Yeah.
And especially with the women that you serve, knowing Christ, knowing God, having that faith background, it gives you that safety net to go out and try and
Yes.
take the risks.
Right.
So that if you fall, He's got you.
Yeah.
Put you back on your feet, and your organization does the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very excited about it. I hope other people get excited about
Yeah.
it. Like I said, it's all about collaboration. The more, usually they say too many chiefs, not enough Indians, right?
Right,
Something
right,
like that.
right. Yeah.
I mean, we need a lot of chiefs, a lot of people to take a stake into the lives of these women so that they can have this better outcome. Ultimately, it'll reduce abortions, I believe. And it also increases the kingdom of God, because that's what we're ultimately here called to do.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier in the pregnancy resource centers. Sometimes you see the woman coming back over and over again, and it's there's no if they don't have the hope, like you said, okay, they made the choice to have the child, but then what?
Right.
Like, now what do I do? Giving them that hope, saying, listen, we're going to now take you, and now we're going to help you get up on your feet. We're going to help you walk, move forward, so that you can be a great model for your children. And you're not alone. I mean, you have so many people helping you.
There's, I think one thing we didn't touch on is the amount of loneliness, depression, and anxiety, and mental illness in this group of women because of the loneliness, because of the desperation, and then, they get into repeat a cycle of relationships because they're just looking for someone. They're looking for help me, and they think that the next guy is the one. He's going to be the one, and then he's not. So it creates a cycle, and if we're not giving an alternative to that, then, I love it when one of the women in the center now says to me, Jesus is my husband. Amen. Praise the Lord. Jesus is your husband, and He will always provide, and He will never let you down like everybody else did, So that's really why we want to get them to say that, what, do I want a family and a husband? Sure, I do. But there's not that desperation for that. I'm going to see what the Lord is going to bring me, the man to care for me and my children.
So if someone's watching or they're listening and they're in this situation, I'm sure you have women of various age groups.
Absolutely. Everybody thinks that I work with young women.
Well, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes. Oh, you help those young moms? The women we see are between 18 and I would say mid-40s. So childbearing years.
Yeah.
If you're able to get pregnant, then we're able to help you, because, and you know what the truth is? You're a dad, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How stubborn are your kids under the age of 25? Don't they know it all?
They know everything.
Yes. So when I see a 23-year-old...
My brother used to call it, because he recognized that in himself as he was growing up.
Yeah.
He had what he calls the knowledge. Right? So he had the knowledge, but then when he hit like 23, 24, the knowledge left him, and he knew nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. So I meet these women, and they're young, and to me, and to all of us, let's get them really young before they make a lot of big mistakes, right? And they're 18, 20, 22, and we're talking to them. They're like, yeah, no, thank you, we're fine. I'm like, really? You think your life is fine and under control and heading in the right direction? Mind you, unemployed, pregnant, no education.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I'm like, okay, nice meeting you. Next,
Yeah. They have to want to be helped.
They have to want to be helped. And the thing is not until after 25, when they've hit their head against the wall a few times, that they'll come back and like, okay, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of women we help are above 25, closer to 30 and up. But you know what I say? Whenever we get them, it's fine. It's like, that's when they're ready. That's when the Lord brings them. We'll take them, So yeah, anybody in childbearing years. And it's really scary for a woman to be in your 40s and find out you're pregnant.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
So, and they're very abortion minded at that point. Because first of all, they find it embarrassing.
Right.
And, we got to help them through that.
Yeah, and show them the other side, because it's darkness.
Yes. My mother had me, she was 42.
Wow, and then she had your younger child. Another one, wow.
Yeah, fertile myrtle.
So listen, check out, I want to get it right again, check out renewlifecenternj.org. and of course, you're a 501c3, you're a nonprofit
Yes, we're a
organization.
nonprofit, yes.
What they do and the amount of women that they help, they can't do it on their own. So it's donations, whether it's $1, $5, $10, whatever it is, you know. And I say this often: if people are watching, they're like, "Oh, I love what you're doing. I'd love to be able to help. I don't have the money." Mm-hmm. Can they donate their time?
Absolutely.
Can they volunteer?
Sure. Yeah, volunteering is wonderful, and retirees are like the best thing out there. It's like if you're retired, God has a purpose for your time in retirement. You know, you have a skill set, you have life experience that you can share. And the truth is that these women that we serve, they don't need girlfriends. They need surrogate mothers and grandmothers.
Right.
So people say, oh, well, you know, I'm in my 70s. What do I have to offer? A lot. That's the kind of nurturing relationship they really want, because they didn't have it.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's a good point.
your time, share the word about Renew with others.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, and it's in Patterson. Whereabouts in Patterson?
I'm on Ellison Street in Patterson,
Okay.
75 Ellison Street, right near Lou Costello Park.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right, almost.
They redid that park.
Yes, it's really nice now.
Pretty, yeah. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful
so we're
area.
right by Lou Costello Park, and you know what? Also, if you're a churchgoer, tell your church about Renew Life Center. Get your church involved, your congregation. That's what we really need. We need the body of Christ to come around us, to come around these women.
Well, and
you know?
you said it earlier. If it wasn't for you going to church,
Yes.
as a high school graduate, you would have never met that gentleman.
Yeah.
You would have never, offered you all of that help.
Yeah.
Brought you to the interview, took you back home.
Yeah.
And you
Look
wouldn't
at the
be here
investment,
right now.
right? The
Yeah.
investment. And it's that level of involvement sometimes that we need. You know, not everybody, I'm not telling everybody volunteers is going to have to do something to that level, but even if you're just the one who does the resume, someone else drives her, someone else, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when we put it all together, everybody has a role to play. And I can't imagine what my life would have turned out to be like without that gentleman intervening that
And it's
way.
so awesome.
All right, that was a
you saw it.
battery change, so apologies. We're right in the middle of the conversation.
So where we left off, I definitely want to talk about your book.
Okay.
What inspired you to bring this book?
Well, okay, so this book, I want them to see it.
Absolutely.
It's called Beyond Her Yes, Reimagining Pro-Life Ministry to Empower Women and Support Families in Overcoming Poverty. It's available on Amazon. So it's funny because as I did, I got invited to do like little radio interviews and things like that, and to share about the ministry. The book didn't exist. And every time we wrapped up a conversation, the person would say, you should write about this. And I'm like, no, I'm not an author.
Right. I'm staying in my lane.
I'm staying in my lane. I'm just Marisol. I just do what the Lord tells me to do and not a thing more, right?
Right.
And I would just brush it off, and then time would pass and someone else would say, you should write about this. And again, there was a good, about 5 years or more of me hearing, you should write about this. And one day, people kept saying, you should write about this. And one day I heard it one more time. My husband was with me, and my husband looked at me, and he goes, what are you waiting for? He
Right.
goes, like, what are you waiting for? Like, God is telling you to write this book. And then it became to the point of, am I going to be obedient or disobedient? And let me tell you, my grammar's back. I barely graduated high school. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm a pretty smart cookie. But I'm not a writer. I'm not. I'm just so not a writer. So anyway, my co-founder, who's a woman who has written a couple of books, I called her and I said, look, I think the Lord is telling me to put my experience down in a book. And she said, all right, let's do it, because she has the experience. So this is what I'm talking about, networking
Right.
and connections and relationships. Like if I didn't have her, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to begin. How do you do a book? How do you do an outline? I don't know nothing. And
And that's the amazing thing about Renew Life Center is that the relationships that they have help the women that come.
right.
The networking, teaching
Yes.
them how to network.
Right.
And you were saying earlier when they were doing a mock interview,
Yeah.
and one of the guys like, I'm gonna hire her.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So the book is really just a story of how Renew Life Center came about. How God took me from being born and raised with a single mother and generational poverty.
And 7 other siblings.
And 7 other siblings to work at a pregnancy center with women from generational poverty that are single moms. and then opening my eyes to the need that these women were facing, you know, after they said yes. So that's why the book is called Beyond Her Yes. I want pro-life ministry, I want pro-life Christians, pro-life people from any background to say, let's think about that beyond that. She said
Right.
yes, let's celebrate it, let's high-five each other, because that is a great choice.
And let's keep supporting
But
her.
let's just
Yeah.
keep going beyond that and see what else she needs to create a life for herself and for that child that does not repeat
Right.
the cycle. So, yeah, and then thankfully, like, I wrote the book to self-publish. And it was self-published a little bit on Amazon when a book publisher, a Christian book publisher, Baker Books, contacted me and said,
Oh, they
"This-
saw it? They found it?
Yeah, this is a nice little book. I think we want to polish it up a little bit, of course, because they're the professionals,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And we want to republish that, you know, to a
Wow.
broader audience. So again, the Lord.
Right, right.
I'm like, you
well,
can't-
anytime we try to plan stuff like that,
It
it's never
doesn't
quite work out.
You know what? So God is so good, and yeah, Baker Books picked it up, and here it is. It's out there on Amazon, and I hope you purchase it, or audio book, listen to it while you're driving.
So the book is Beyond Her Yes by Marisol Rodriguez, and you said did your co-founder help you with the book?
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. See that?
Yeah.
It's networking.
yeah.
It's networking.
Absolutely. She gave
Reaching
me all
out.
the contacts. Yeah.
Reaching out to
Absolutely.
people.
Yeah.
So pick up the book, available on Amazon, and go check out RenewLifeCenterNJ.org. See what Renew Life Center is doing to help these women. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. You know, God
Yeah, and
bless
all the
you
proceeds,
and all your
all
work.
the proceeds of the book go to the ministry. Like
Oh, is that right?
It's not for me, so everything goes right to the
It's
ministry.
just
to
it's
support
another
it.
way for people to donate.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
if you
get a
donate
book
the
and-
money, get the book. Proceeds go to help Renew Life Center. If you want to donate, go to the website, donate there. If you want to donate your time, I'm sure there's a contact
Yes.
that they can send an email, tell them what you'd like to do. If you have life experience, just call them up and say, how can I help? I love your organization. How can I help you guys grow? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Flavia.
God
It's
bless
been a
you.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's awesome. So again, RenewLifeCenterNJ.org, Beyond Her Yes on Amazon, all different ways that you can help support the organization. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, be well, everybody.